Survival hunters use traps and explosives, working with their pets to decimate their enemies. And I'm going to show you everything to succeed in The War Within Season 1. We're going to start off looking at the stat priority. And before we get into it, I do want to say that this video is going to be very beginner friendly, while also super veteran friendly, if you will, giving a lot of depth as well. So you're all going to hit the ground running, hopefully, after this. Main stat is, of course, agility. We get a higher and higher eye level or item level to get more agility. These here are the secondary stats and the priority that you should loosely follow. Generally, a higher eye level is always going to be better unless you're comparing two items of the same eye level. So with that being said, what are the secondary stats? We've got versatility is going to increase any damage and also healing done, and also reduce damage taken as well. Versatility and mastery being actually very similar for survival hunters. Haste is actually going to increase your attack speed, so how fast you're attacking, amongst a few other small things, and also your focus regeneration. That is the orange bar that you and your pet have here, and that's the main resource that we're spending to cast our attacks. Mastery is very interesting. For us survival hunters in The War Within, it's called Spirit Bond. You and your pet deal more damage and take reduced amounts of damage, and the bonus is increased by 100% when you are close together. So staying close to your pet means that you are actually going to get an increased value from that. So the more mastery you have, the more damage you and your pet do, and the less damage you both take. Critical strike, of course, giving you a chance to do more damage. While we are here, I want to quickly go through the set bonus that we are getting in Season 1, which is the Lightless Scavenger's Necessities. The 2 set means our wildfire bomb damage is increased by 5%, and the 4 set bonus, Raptor Strike, deals increased amounts of damage to targets affected by wildfire bomb. So it really is revolving around our bombs and also our Raptor Strike. And if you don't know those abilities, I'll be covering them in full shortly in this video. So now we're going to look through some of the utilities and defensives and things like that we have available to us as a hunter in The War Within. So I do want to just say, if you are a beginner watching, don't worry, I'm not going to show you every single spell. These are the ones that I think are really, really important that you should be aware of and using. There are, of course, other niche spells. And maybe if you are a beginner, when you're more comfortable with your rotation and how the build works, maybe just have a look through your spellbook and your talents on the hunter side on the left and just see what else you have available. But I don't think it's good to overwhelm yourself if you are. So first up on the left, these are things that we're more doing to our enemies, and on the right is more things that are going to actually help us and our allies. So starting on the left then, we've got Freezing Trap. You can see that you can place this wherever you like, and you're going to fling it over there like that. Hurling a Frost Trap at the target location, and it's going to incapacitate the first enemy that touches it. You know, it's a trap. And this is going to actually last for an entire minute. So they're stuck there now for an entire minute, unless you do damage to them, at which point that is then going to stop the trap. We then have Counter Shot, and this is quite literally on a 24-second cooldown, our interrupt or kick. If you hear people using the word kick, it just means it's their interrupt. This is how we're going to interrupt our enemy's spellcasting, and that is really important to do. Beginners and veterans alike often overlook the importance of interrupting your enemy's spellcasting. And in Mythic Plus especially, and PvP, this is really, really important that you do this pretty much whenever you can. Sorry if you can hear that car alarm that's just started going off outside my house. And it's really, really important that you do that. We then have Concussive Shot, and this is actually going to slow your target for 50% for 6 seconds. Then we have Misdirection. This is a really interesting one. I actually love Misdirection. This is actually going to misdirect any threat that you cause to an ally. So I wonder if I can do it to a random person. No, they have to be in my group. Okay. Basically, I can click on an ally and I can be like, boom, I'm going to misdirect my threat to you. So when I'm attacking the enemy, if I'm doing loads of damage, like on pull, the threat will actually, the enemy will start attacking that other person because I'm directing my kind of aggression to that person rather than me. And then let's say you have accidentally got threat off an enemy and it's attacking you and not the person you want, or you've pulled an enemy that you didn't mean to and you've gone into combat. Well, we can actually use Feign Death. And this literally is where you play dead on the ground like this, and it will last up to 6 minutes. And it will take you out of combat, generally, and enemies will just ignore you. It is fantastic. It's one of the best abilities in the game, honestly. So, going on to the right-hand side, we've got Primal Rage. This is Bloodlust, or Heroism, as it's otherwise known. And you can see here, you've got a 10-minute cooldown, fatigued, cannot benefit from Primal Rage or other similar effects. So if you have a Evoker, a Shaman, a Mage, for example, in your group, they will not be able to use their Bloodlust, their Time Warp, or Fear of the Aspects. It is a shared cooldown, but this is your Bloodlust. If you don't know what Bloodlust is, or Heroism, it increases the haste by 30% for all party and raid members for 40 seconds, which is massive. It's generally known as the biggest cooldown in the game. We've then got some defensives here. Survival of the Fittest, reducing all damage you and your pet take by 30% for 6 seconds. It's actually got 2 charges. We've got Camouflage. You and your pet blend into the surroundings and gain stealth for an entire minute. While camouflaged, you're going to heal 2% of your maximum health every 1 second. And lastly, we've got Hunter's Mark. You can put this on before you go into combat, and you should always be doing this. It's actually going to increase the damage done to that target by 20% when they're over 80% health, and that's going to be for in the entire party and raid, not you, which is a phenomenal way to actually add damage for your entire group going into combat. And that is it for Hunters. Like I said, there's a lot of other ones. You've got like down here, Eyes of the Beast, you've got Eagle Eye. You know, there's so many utilities that we do have available to us as a Hunter. Scattershot, Scare Beast, Tar Trap, you know, the list goes on. But again, these are the ones that I think are the really core and important ones going into the WarWithin that you should know. Now we're actually going to have a look at the full rotation, etc. we'll be using in PvP for the WarWithin as a survival hunter, and it's pretty fun. We have a lot of utility at our disposal. Looking at the actual main rotation we're going to be using first, use Kill Command as first and foremost, using that first charge, making sure we don't cap out on 2 charges because it is basically a waste. Give the command to kill, causing your pet to savagely deal damage to the enemy, and it has a 20% chance to immediately reset its own cooldown. Then we have Flanking Strike. You and your pet leap to the target and strike is a 1, dealing damage. Tip of the Spear grants an additional 15% damage bonus to Flanking Strike, and Flanking Strike generates 2 stacks of Tip of the Spear. So then, what the hell is Tip of the Spear? Well, that is here. Kill Command increases the direct damage of your other spells by 15%, stacking up to 3 times. So when we use Kill Command, we get that effect. And then what's Flanking Strike is doing is that Tip of the Spear grants an additional 15% damage bonus to Flanking Strike, and Flanking Strike generates 2 stacks of Tip of the Spear. So it kind of is a bit symbiotic with itself with that buff. So you can see here, your next non-kill command spell deals more damage. We then use Flanking Strike, which does more damage, but then grants 2 more stacks of Tip of the Spear. Hopefully that makes sense. After that, we're going to use our Wildfire Bomb. Hurl a bomb at the target, exploding for fire damage in a cone and coating enemies in wildfire, scorching them for fire damage, dealing a lot of damage. And it's also going to have this little chance of having this bird you may have just seen, the Sentinel, coming above us. That's from the hero talents that we'll be going over shortly. We can use Explosive Shot. This is going to basically tick away and then explode on the target, doing very good AoE damage. And pretty much same here. Use your Wildfire Bomb here to make sure you're not capping on charges. Then use any other remaining charges. Same thing with Kill Command here and here. Make sure it's not capping. Use any remaining. After that, use Kill Shot whenever you can. This is a lot of damage and can finish off your enemy. And it's only usable generally under 20% health. After that, it's going to be Mongoose Bite, a brutal attack dealing damage and giving you Mongoose Fury, which is a buff that increases the damage of Mongoose Bite and the chance for Kill Command to reset by 2% for 14 seconds, and that can stack up to 5 times. I mean, you can get extra Kill Command stacks out of there, or sorry, cooldown reductions that you get more charges, not stacks of Kill Command. Outside of that, we do have Coordinated Assault. You and your pet charge your enemy, striking them in combined physical damage, and you and your pet's bond is strengthened, causing you both to deal more damage. While it's active, Kill Command's chance to reset again. The cooldown is further increased, so even more charges of Kill Command. That generally is how you're going to get your burst from Coordinated Assault, and you can use that along with Primal Rage, which is of course Bloodlust. And then we have the general rotation that we can follow here. For kind of more defensives and utilities, we have Aspect of the Cheetah, speeding you up, 90% for 3 seconds, and then 30% for 9 seconds. While you're doing that, you could also use Aspect of the Turtle, reduces damage you take by 30%, but you can't attack, meaning if you use something like Disengage or Aspect of the Cheetah, with that, while you're not really looking at attacking anyway, you're just trying to get out of there, that could be the perfect timing. Disengage, as you could see there, launches you back. Exhilaration heals you and gives you some cooldown reduction on it for every 10 focus you spend, which is your main hunter resource. And then Survival of the Fittest, similar to Aspect of the Turtle, this one just reduces damage taken by 30%. When you open the gates, you can use Camouflage to go into stealth before you attack. We've just spoken about Primal Rage, and now we've got our utilities. Freezing Trap, as you can see here, will incapacitate the target. We've got Tar Trap that will basically slow them when they trigger it in this big tar circle. And Explosive Trap will do AoE damage to whoever triggers that one. Binding Shot is another really cool one. It actually binds them there and it makes them slowed when they try and get away from that arrow. We've got Concussive Shot, slowing their movement speed. Flare is an amazing one. If there's a rogue or someone in stealth, then you can fire a flare and you'll be able to see them in stealth. They will be basically taken out of stealth in that flared area. Make sure on your kill target you put on Hunter's Mark, increasing damage from your whole team that will be done to them over 80% health. So when they're over 80%, you and your team will deal more damage, and they can always be seen and tracked by the hunter, so no stealth for them. Intimidation will send your pet in to charge at them and intimidate the target. And then we have Muzzle. Remember, we are going to be doing a lot of melee because we're using a polearm, we're survival, interrupts your spellcasting there with Muzzle. And lastly, Tranquilizing Shot removes enrage and magic effects from your enemy as well. So we have got a lot of different utilities that we can use. So you've got your main rotation and your kind of burst, your kind of defensive and utilities, and then kind of utilities that are kind of more offensive than defensive. For the actual PvP talents, I love Diamond Ice. Victims of Freezing Trap can no longer be damaged or healed, but it's undispellable and lasts 5 seconds, meaning you can stop them in their tracks when they try and burst you down. You can stop a healer for 5 seconds, and again, it's undispellable, meaning they really are out of the game for a few seconds. Another one I love is Chimeral Sting. This is actually going to add Scorpion Venom, Spider Venom, and Viper Venom. And it's going to, every 3 seconds, it will go to the next one. So it'll do 3 seconds of Scorpid, 3 seconds of Spider, and then 3 seconds of Viper. Scorpid massively reduces their movement speed. Spider Venom silences them. And then Viper Venom will make them do reduced damage and healing. And it's so annoying, because imagine you've just been slowed, now you've been silenced, now you're doing reduced damage all in a row, and you can't do much about it. I honestly love that one. If I'm up against it, I hate it. But when I'm doing it, I love it. Then I think really for survival, the other one I would go with is Hunting Pack. The other hunter specs I do feel like have a better selection. But I would go for Hunting Pack as survival, where Aspect of the Cheetah has a reduced cooldown and grants its effects to allies as well, meaning you can all get out of there, or you can help them, etc., and you can do it a lot more often. And that's it really for the main rotations and PvP talents. So for this build, we are going with Sentinel as the hero. Oh my god, that's like a hair in my eye. Sentinel as the hero talents. Basically, we're going to get an owl. We're going to be like imploding stuff. There's stacks of stuff going on. Let's get into it. I do actually want to first say, this isn't adding to the rotation. This is already built into the rotation. So we're really looking at the why. You know, the rotation is the what. This is kind of the why we're doing what we're doing, or part of it. And I just want to go a bit deeper than I usually would, because it's the new thing, you know, hero talents. So Sentinel, your attacks have a chance to apply Sentinel on the target, stacking up to 10 times. While Sentinel stacks are higher than 3, applying Sentinel has a chance to trigger an implosion, causing a stack to be consumed on the target every second to deal more damage. Then we have Don't Look Back. Each time Sentinel deals damage to an enemy, you gain an Absorb Shield, lovely, some survivability. Release and Reload. When you apply Sentinel to a target, you have a chance to get a second stack. Then we've got a choice node, eyes closed for 8 seconds after activating your coordinated assault cooldown. All abilities are guaranteed to apply Sentinel. You can also go for whenever Sentinel deals damage, the cooldown of coordinated assault is reduced. In the middle, we've got when you apply Sentinel to a target not affected, you gain an additional stack. A utility choice here, Catch Out. When a target is affected by Sentinel, deals damage to you, they're rooted, but it can only happen every minute to each target. Or when Sentinel starts dealing damage, the target is snared. Personally, I like the snare. Symphonic Arsenal, multi-shot and butchery discharge arcane energy from all targets affected by the Sentinel, dealing arcane damage to loads of targets in the area, which is fantastic for AoE or multi-target damage. Sentinel Precision, Raptor Strike even, Mongoose Bite and Wildfire Bomb deal more damage. Invigorating Pulse, every time your Sentinel deals damage, it has a chance to generate some focus for you. And then another choice node, Overwatch or Crescent Steel. Overwatch, all Sentinel debuffs implode when a target is affected by more than 3 stacks of your Sentinel falls below 20% health. Or targets you damage below 20% health, gain a stack of Sentinel every 3 seconds. I like Crescent Steel. And finally, Lunar Storm. And this is where it gets really interesting. Every 15 seconds, your next Wildfire Bomb summons a Celestial Owl that conjures a 10-yard radius Lunar Storm at the target's location for 8 seconds. What does this do then? Well, a random enemy affected by Sentinel within your Lunar Storm gets struck for arcane damage very quickly every 0.4 seconds, and any target struck by this effect takes more damage from you and your pet. So it sounds all quite complex with Sentinel. It's really not. We're getting stacks of Sentinel on the enemy, and then it's going to implode and do damage, and then there's kind of just adding to that for a few utilities and survivability. That is really all that is actually happening. And then there's the Lunar Storm, and when they're standing in the Lunar Storm, they're going to take more damage from you and your pet. And that is the Sentinel hero talents we will be taking. And finally, let's look at the consumables and enchants, etc. we'll be using as a survival hunter in the War Within. So they have changed, of course, how you get sockets in the vault. Well, they haven't really changed the name. Nerubian Gem Weavers are what you get from your weekly vault to add sockets. You can add one on your head, wrist, and waist. Then what we can actually do is add 2 more slots on our neck, ring, and ring. That is with Magnificent Jeweler settings. So you cannot now add 3 sockets onto your neck like before. It's 2 on each jewelry slot, which I actually really prefer with the Magnificent Jeweler settings. On the cloak, we're going with Chant of Winged Grace. This reduces fall damage and gives you some avoidance. Crystalline Radiance gives primary stat. Chant of Armored Avoidance is avoidance. Stormbound Armor Kit gives you agility. Scout's March is movement speed. Radiant Mastery is mastery, obviously, on the rings. And then Authority of the Depths on your weapon. This means that sometimes when you're damaging, you can actually suffocate your enemies with shadow damage, and it can deepen 3 times. I guess which means it just kind of stacks 3 times. Weird wording, but, it's a weapon enchant, so who cares, I guess. And then looking at the actual... Let's zoom in there. Have we zoomed in too much? We have zoomed in. Let's zoom out. There we go. So the flask I would recommend really is probably going to be the Tempered Versatility, just because it's a great all-rounder. Feast of the Divine Day. Oh my God, I keep going to the wrong tab. Will give you primary stat. Tempered Potion will actually give you all the secondary stats that you didn't get on your flask. Algari Healing Potion. Iron Claw Whetstone is the one you're going to want to go for your weapon oil, which basically adds attack power for you. They are bringing those back in the War Within, which I love. I think that's a really great change. Crystallized Augment Runes, giving primary stat. And then a Culminating Blasphemite is your epic gem. What this does is it increases primary stat, and then it increases your critical strike effect by 0.15% for every different colored gem you're wearing. So if you wear an onyx, a ruby, a sapphire, and an emerald, like I've shown here, then you'll get 0.6% or 0.6% critical effect. If you had all rubies, it would be 15. If you had 2 rubies and 2 onyxes, it'd be 0.3. Do you know what I mean? You need 1 of each different gem. And after that, I would use onyxes, deadly onyxes. But for your first 4 blue slots, use 1 of each of those colors. And those are the consumables we will be using. Thank you so much for watching this guide. I hope it was really useful for you in the War Within Season 1, whether it was for Mythic Plus or raiding. If you do have any questions, I'll be happy to help. My Patreon is in the description below, and that is where you can find my LVUI profiles, which I'll show you in a second. And also, I'm putting together a huge macro list for every single spec that's going to be really useful for you in the War Within as well. I am doing all classes and specs for the War Within, so if you are new to the channel, then please do click this playlist here to check out what else I have, which is all of them. There will also be PvP guides on this channel as well for War Within Season 1, so make sure to look out for that. This here is the UI that I was referring to. As you can see, we've got target frames, etc., left and right, and raid frames go in the middle here, and then weak auras in the middle with an action bar down here. Chat is behind where my camera is. Minimap and details, etc., are here on the right. All of the plater profiles, the voodoo, the LVUI, etc., details profile has all been made by me. And again, you can get this on my Patreon should you like it.